start a business, would you stop and think, how's the economic climate? Is this a good time? Is this a bad time? Or do you think, I'm going to do it? Well, the latter is what our guest this morning decided. I'm going to do it right now. It's in the middle of a recession, would you believe? And it was property. So there was nothing going right at the time. I wouldn't have thought. Vivienne Harris, good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome. So there you were, sitting in your bedroom, and you had this bright idea, I'll start a business. I know there's a recession, but is that about right?
Sort of. What had happened was I'd been working for another company for a while, and there was really nowhere to promote me to within that company. And I felt it was just too limiting. So I left, not really knowing what I was going to do, but knew that I wanted a new venture. And to be frank, the phone rang off the hook with clients of mine ringing me saying, I'm so glad I know how to find you. Please will you help me? Please will you help me find? Please will you help me sell? Will you help me rent? Etc, etc. And I thought, this is ridiculous. I've got all this business lining up. I may as well start up on my own. So that's what I did. And
then the reality set in and you thought, is this such a good idea after all?
Well, there are days when I feel like that today, actually. But the reality is that it started off well, and although there was a huge recession going on at the time, it was 1990, we were in the midst of it, and various people actually said to me, you know, you're either brave or stupid. And, you know, I think the proof of the pudding is definitely in the eating. But the reality is that I had a really strong following of clients who wanted me to help them, and it worked remarkably well, actually.
And what about the reality of going and knocking on the bank manager's door and saying, hello, remember me, this is what I'm going to do? Did he look at you and say, do you need help?
No, he was a really lovely Irishman, actually. I'd never met him before. I'd never done a business plan before. I had no clue, really, what it took to start a business. But I think because I had my pedigree of 12 years, because I could prove to him that I had a following of clientele, he said, look, I'll give you a loan of, the loan was £10,000, which in 1990 was quite a lot of money to start a business. Didn't get me offices, didn't get me all the necessary equipment I would have liked, but it got me a couple of phones and a computer and a printer, and got me started.
And you were up and running. We will hear more from Vivienne Harris about exactly how she went from that computer and a phone to where she is today. See you after the break. It's coming up to, 22 minutes past 8 o'clock in the morning. We are back with our guest this morning, who is Vivienne Harris, who's with me now. The lady who had the inspiration to start a business in the middle of a recession with £10,000 from the bank. It got you started. I mean, you had the benefit, didn't you, that you said earlier that so many people knew you and they came to you. So
yes, big advantage.
It gave you a bit of a start, didn't it?
It certainly did. I mean, without that, I think there are two different things. One is I probably would not have had a business to start with. And the second is it sort of gave me the confidence to get going, and it sort of gave me maybe the push I needed to set up for myself, because I figured if so many people felt they could trust me and so many people felt that I was good at my job, then on that basis I shouldn't fail.
Once you were up and running, how many sleepless nights did you have?
Oh, loads.
Really?
It took a long time for the sleepless nights to go. I think there's always a fear when you run your own business that somehow it's all going to go horribly wrong, and there are many times when you wake up in the middle of the night and you have that sharp intake of breath and you think, oh, what have I done? What am I doing? But inevitably it turns out right. If you actually know your trade and you do a good job for people and people like you and trust you, they come back to you.
So was there a pattern pen by the bed, so when you did have these wake-up moments and you remembered something, you wrote it down, so by the morning you could act on it?
No, what tended to happen was I'd wake up in the middle of the night and think, oh my goodness, I've either forgotten to do something, or I must phone so-and-so, or I'm missing out on this piece of business, or whatever. And in the morning, because I woke up, I think, with such fear in the night, by the morning I remembered it and would go into my office. And I was very strict about that although the office was in a bedroom in my home, I would dress as if I was going to work. I would be ready for work by 9 o'clock, and I would be on that phone at 9 o'clock. And I'd have all my notes written from all the sleepless nights the sleepless night the night before, and have all my notes written and just work my way through it.
So how long were you a one-lady band?
Almost 2 years.
Really?
I worked from home for 2 years, and then I took on a part-time lady to help me with lettings, because I was doing sales and lettings at the time myself. And the business really had started to grow by then, and it was getting to the point where I was working till 10, 11 o'clock at night to finish off paperwork, make sure that I was organised for the following day, that my diary was up to date, etc., which was getting a little silly. So I took this part-time lady and then started to hunt for a small little office somewhere that would be inexpensive, but would give me a shop front.
So, for 2 years, everything that happened, every piece of business, everything that you did was just you.
Yes.
So you went and you met people and you took them around properties and you did this and did that all by yourself.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, from writing up property details, writing letters confirming fees, taking people around properties, showing them around, taking on properties and measuring them up, taking photographs, creating the detail sheets, running the advertising, making the phone calls, going to arrange lists of viewings, because often if you've got a good buyer, you don't just show one or two things, you might do a list of 4 or 5.
And say, well, while we're at it, I know you want to spend this much, but just come and look at this round the corner.
Exactly.
And then you reel them in.
Exactly.
You could tell you'd done this before you actually started off on your own. It's a fascinating story and a fascinating journey. Just a quick one before we go to the break. I mean, did you, when you were doing all of this, ever stop in the street and think, Vivienne, what are you doing?
Many times.
I can imagine.
Yeah, many times.
I can imagine. We'll talk some more after the break. Very close to another break, but I'm just going to have another quick word with Vivienne Harris, who's our guest this morning. We've been talking about your business and how you got it up and got it going. I'm trying to think that, you know, selling houses, buying houses and renting these days, it's a very, very costly business, isn't it?
It is costly, but I think it all depends on how you look at cost. Everybody obviously always wants a bargain, but when you are dealing with people's most valuable possession, it's more important that they get the right price. We see a lot of agents who are happy just to turn a deal in because it appears on their books, and on that basis they are a profit-making centre and the only interest is their own commission. I have never run my business like that. We always go for the very last penny that we can get.
Right.
And we feel we offer value for money, and I think although one might say it's expensive, I think that our clients actually benefit from that.
Is it getting more difficult for people to be able to afford their own homes?
It is becoming more difficult. London in particular is incredibly difficult for youngsters to get on the ladder. I know the government's produced various initiatives in order to try and ease that situation. But for an average young person who's starting out, I think it's virtually impossible to buy anywhere close to London.
And it's not even as though renting's any cheaper. We will talk some more in a few minutes, but right now we go to a break, guys. I was talking to Vivienne Harris, who's been my guest this morning. We're going to have one more chat before she goes and make sure that her business is running as it should be. You set it all up by yourself. You did it all by yourself. Is it hard to let go now? I know you've got staff working for you, but do you still go and peer over their shoulders all the time and make sure they're doing what they should?
I'm terribly hands-on. I think I probably drive them all a bit crazy. I'm very much hands-on in the business every day. I'm in my office every day. And what I try to do is let go of parts of it in terms of saying, right, when inquiries come in for the team to take them over, they probably handle them better than I would anyway. And I do other things. I do much more bringing in business for the company and creating relationships for the company. And that's always actually been my forte. I'm good at networking, and I know a lot of people. We're very well connected as a company. We've had 25 years experience at Heathgate, and prior to that 12 years at my previous employment, so 37 years worth of contacts. And those contacts, many of them have stayed with me and the company for our 25 years, and in fact, hopefully when we do a celebration for our anniversary, I'm hoping that a lot of them will come and see us and join in our fun and our party, because they've all helped make it.
Yeah, I mean, I saw a picture the other day of you with a glass of champagne and the knife poised over the cake. You've just completed 25 years. I mean, it's some achievement, isn't it, when you think back? I mean, do you at the end of the day kick your shoes off and go into another room and think, I've done all this, this is all mine?
In one way, yes, but truthfully, I'm an achiever. I'm ambitious, and I want to continue on, and I want it to be bigger and better and sleeker, and I want to improve what we do and continue to improve our level of service and the client satisfaction that we give.
I mean, it sounds as though it's been 25 years without a single glitch. I'm sure there have been one or two along the way.
There have been quite a number along the way, but I think the secret to a successful business is, first of all, you put your clientele first. I think, secondly, you have to just ride the storm, and you have to sit it out sometimes and just say, I'm not going to be deterred from my goals. I'm not going to be deterred that business is not so good at the moment. Or, you know, I've lived through 9/11, for instance. The phones just stopped ringing. For 3 months, we probably took 5 phone calls, as did everybody else. But you get through it. And I think if you're sensible and you run your business in a cautious manner, and you keep a cushion of funds just for those emergencies, it helps you ride through the storms.
Because, I mean, you know, there's just in the way now, we were talking in the break how social media has revolutionised the way we do things. Yeah. I mean, so many things have changed, haven't they? I mean, you must look back to the early days when, you know, you didn't even have a mobile phone, did you, for goodness sake?
No, absolutely not. When I first started work, there were no mobile phones. If people didn't show up to appointments, you gave them 15 minutes and then you went back to your office. There was no way of reaching anybody. You literally had to just stand and wait and hope for the best. Yes, and then on, when I started my own business 25 years ago, mobile phones were just becoming popular. They weren't the brick size ones anymore, the big sort of carry case,
yeah,
but they were still fairly large. And I had one of the first ones of those, because being a woman in the office on my own, effectively, or actually in my bedroom on my own working, when I was out, I wanted to be able to take calls. So that way it gave me the freedom to run my office from wherever I was.
Dare I ask you this question? Had you been a man, would you have achieved and done all you've done in the last 25 years?
Well, that's a very difficult question to answer.
It is.
I don't know. Possibly not, actually. I think being a female has actually stood me in very good stead, and I think it has separated me from my competitors. And instead of being the average epitome of the flashy estate agent that turns up in the flashy car with the tie skew with and the hair gelled up, I think when people see a woman who knows her business, who is well experienced, I think it does separate us out from the rest.
Vivienne Harris, well done. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you very much.